As we welcome in now Jake Asman, host over at ESPN New York Radio, Mad Dog Radio. You can catch the Jake Asman Show on YouTube as well. Jake, welcome in. We're going to talk lots of Monday Night Football with this game against the Bills tonight. But this is, big sports day in your city right now between everything in Major League Baseball playoffs. You got hockey. You guys just had locked and loaded today.
Everything's happening, and even the New York Liberty won a huge game in the WNBA Finals yesterday. So we have that going on too. So it's crazy. I was on ESPN New York yesterday, and I led the show, being like, I don't know what to lead with. Do I start with the Mets, who are playing the NLCS tonight, Game 1? Do I start with the Yankees, who named their starting rotation for the first 4 games? Do you do the Jets playing for first place with interim head coach taking over? The Giants were on Sunday night last night against the Bengals. So it has been crazy, and today's nuts with Game 2 of the NLCS, Game 1 of the ALCS in the Bronx, and Jets, of course, at home against the Bills. I was going to go to the Jet game, but I'm going to stay home on my multiple screens and watch everything at once. There's too much happening.
That is the nice part about being at home now, the technology, able to watch many different things. So I got a question about the team psyche with Saleh being fired, right? I think incorrectly people just assume when a coach gets fired, the team will play better in that first game, but it doesn't feel like Robert Saleh lost the team, right? Like, he didn't lose the team. He was fired because the offense didn't play well. So do you think this team sort of plays differently tonight without Saleh there, or is it basically the same, excitement, enthusiasm we've seen through the first 5 weeks?
Jeff, I think it will be telling in the opening couple drives for the Jets, because Robert Saleh, you could say, well, he's a defensive guy. The offense stinks. That's why he got fired. But when you have a lot of players these last couple games using the word accountability, especially a guy like Quincy Williams, who never says anything, coming out and saying what he said after that debacle in London, which I unfortunately sat through, by the way, in person, which stunk as a Jet fan. But I think when you hear those comments, you talk about the lack of accountability, as multiple players did all week, how that's something they want to change. I think how they start this game will be telling. 2 games ago, they lost 10-9 to Bo Nix at home in a game they definitely should not have lost. They followed that up by coming out completely flat against the Vikings, where they didn't get a first down until the second quarter on offense, and they were down 17-0 almost right away. I think how they start tonight will be telling. You're at home. The crowd's going to be into it. You're playing a Bills team that is not at 100% health. You're playing a Bills team that you've been able to beat in your building these last 2 years with Zach Wilson as your quarterback. So, you got a new play caller tonight. What does Todd Downing do that could maybe look a little different? I think we'll know early if, this team's kind of feed off the energy that, Jeff Ulbrich, their interim head coach, will bring. So I think it could look a little different tonight. I think we might know right away based on how the Jets come out.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going to go. What do you anticipate with Todd Downing now calling the plays here? Obviously, Aaron Rodgers likes a very specific system that he has played to throughout his career, and that's probably a big reason why Nathaniel Hackett has been demoted for calling exactly that. So how different do you think things are with Downing?
Well, it can't be any worse from just a play caller standpoint or just a personnel standpoint. We all understood why Hackett had this job in the first place, and all the reports come out this week. Oh, well, Robert Saleh was trying to find someone else that could take on a role with the offense, but we can't give him the offensive play caller job because that's still Hackett's job. So, going in, I think the Jets knew they had some real concerns with Hackett as the play caller. I guess you hope with Downing, this is a guy, I'm not going to make him, out to be Kyle Shanahan or anything, but, if he could be the 20th best play caller in the league, I think with the talent the Jets do have on this offense, that could be enough for them to score 23, 24 points a game and start winning some games, because the defense has remained elite even with some injuries and no Haason Reddick, which we might get to, I'm sure, at some point in this conversation. So I think they got to get the running game going. I'm hoping with Downing, who had success in Tennessee with Derrick Henry and that rushing attack, could get Breece Hall and Braylon Allen going, because the Jets are dead last in the NFL right now in rushing yards per game. And they're playing a Bills team tonight that does allow 144 yards per game on the ground. So you should be able to run on them. If not now, then when? For a Jets rushing attack that was supposed to be their big strength. I think I've said this on VSIN before, and I've said this on the radio and my YouTube show. I looked at Breece Hall as like the equivalent of what Terrell Davis was for John Elway at the end of his career, and they have been unable to get Breece going at all. They weren't asking Aaron Rodgers to be MVP Rodgers this year. They wanted him to be competent, manage the game, don't turn it over, and rely on that running game. And they've had no running game in any of their losses this year. In their 2 wins, they've ran the ball over 100 yards. In their 3 losses, they've averaged less than 3 yards per carry. It's not sustainable if you're going to ask Aaron Rodgers to throw 54 times like he did last week against the Vikings. So I think the biggest thing for Downing and the Jets tonight, can they get this running game going with Breece Hall and Braylon Allen?
Okay. When Rodgers was near the end with Mike McCarthy, the offense was very static. They didn't run the ball a lot. starting to look like that offense now. You just talked about all the things that the Jets have to do different. So how much of this is an Aaron Rodgers problem where he wants too much control of the offense versus more of just a schematic issue with Downing and or Hackett designing an offense based around what Rodgers wants to do?
Well, I'll tell you what, Jeff. I mean, you know this. He's the quarterback, so it's ultimately on him. He's going to shoulder a ton of the responsibility, and this is where we learn a lot about Aaron Rodgers, right? He wanted to be a Jet. He wanted the spotlight. He wanted this opportunity. You know, he didn't play last year, of course, with the injury, and so far this year, it's been up and down. The last 2 weeks, he hasn't been good. He's also been hit 24 times, and he's had to throw more times than I think anyone anticipated. So, you know, he said all the right things this week about taking accountability, believing in Coach Ulbrich, believing in, you know, Todd Downing, you know, making some changes here. So we'll see what he looks like tonight. But, you know, I think if you're Aaron Rodgers, it behooves you to play well tonight because this fan base will start to turn on him if he struggles. Like right now, all the focus has been on Robert Saleh, and there's not a single Jet fan out there that's not on board, by the way, with getting rid of him. But it's not going to mean anything if the quarterback doesn't now go out there and play like the guy that, you know, many of us expected we were going to see this year. So I think it's a lot on Rodgers. I think he's got to go out there and he's got to have a good game tonight against a Bills team that, as bad as the Jets have been these last two games, you know, they win tonight. They're in first place with a head-to-head win over the team you're directly competing with for that division title.
Yeah, exactly. Jake Asman joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line, Jake Asman Show on YouTube, ESPN New York, Mad Dog Radio. And I want to go back to Breece Hall real quickly because, yes, obviously the importance of establishing the run game with him is super important. But I was looking at his receptions prop at over 3.5 because we know with this offensive line, Aaron Rodgers does like to get the ball out and some of those dump offs to him, get the ball out quickly. Bills have struggled with the pass game to running backs. Do you think that could be an option for Breece tonight as well?
Yeah, I would love to see him utilized way more in the receiving game because, yeah, this is a guy who, once again, there was a reason why for any of your listeners or you guys who play fantasy football, Breece Hall was going as a top 3 pick. He was second in the NFL last year in yards from scrimmage with a way worse quarterback situation, way worse offensive line. They had 13 O-line combinations in 17 games. And this guy was second in the NFL behind McCaffrey at his position in yards from scrimmage. So they have just not really utilized him the way I think every Jet fan envisioned him being used. So, you know, we're only 5 games in, but this is a huge game tonight. And if you remember, Breece played so well in that first game on Monday night a year ago, where his first carry was for 25 yards coming off the ACL. He had like a 75-yard carry earlier on in that game too. So, you know, this is a team he's played well against personally in the past. So I think it's one of those nights where Breece cannot get it going tonight. You start to wonder, well, what's going on with him? Is he hurt? What are we missing here? Because it's a really good matchup, you would think, for him to get himself going and be a focal point of this offense for the Jets.
Let's talk Haason Reddick. You mentioned it earlier. His agent fired him, which is rare, and then now he hired Drew Rosenhaus's group. Where does that stand right now? Because I think that's how the report too. The Jets did offer him an enhanced 1-year deal, and he turned that down as well.
Yeah, Jeff, I mean, you being a former player, like, you tell me if you can remember a holdout that seemingly is this silly, right? This guy has basically cost himself already $10 million between fines and forfeitures. He has an opportunity. I thought, hey, redo your deal with the Jets, get some extra money, you know, show up, have another 10-plus sack season like he's done the last 4 years. I mean, like people say, oh, he doesn't want to play for the Jets. They're terrible. Go ask Bryce Huff in Philadelphia right now if he wouldn't mind being in this Jet defense. The defense has remained really good. They know how to develop talent there. He would put up big numbers with the Jets, so I never understood why he was so dug in and didn't show up. If he played well, if not the Jets, someone would pay him. He wants Danielle Hunter money, right? That's the report. Well, Danielle Hunter was a free agent, and Houston signed him. So, you know, if you're the Jets, you get Reddick in the building. You say, hey, man, go out there, play well. Someone's going to pay you. The fact that, you know, we're going into week 6 and his agents are firing him, it kind of lends you to believe that this guy has either been given bad advice by people close to him or he's so stubborn and dug in, he doesn't see the forest through the trees because he has cost himself so much money for no good reason.
Before we let you go, Jake, we've got about 60 seconds here, but obviously Jets getting a point in this spot, total 41. Do you have a final score prediction or feel how this game's going to end out?
I hate that I actually like the Jets in this game tonight because they're doing it to me again. I'm holding on to hope for as long as I can hold on to it. I think they just play this team well for whatever reason. You look at Josh Allen, he's Superman against everyone that's not this Jet defense. I mean, they've won the last 2 times they've met at MetLife. I do think the Jets come out a lot faster tonight. I do think they get that, you know, that interim coach boost at least early on in this one, and I expect the defense to play well. So I think it's close. I think it's going to be, 20-17. Jets find a way to win on Monday Night Football.
Jake, you're awesome. We appreciate your time on a game day. Thanks
buddy.
for doing
Appreciate
this.
It.
Anytime, guys, and I guess go New York sports as well. What a day, my goodness.
Yeah, I say it's a game day. It's multiple games today out there. Awesome stuff there from Jake Asman.